There is a fear living inside millions of Americans right now. It is not the fear of failure. It is not the fear of death. It is quieter than that, softer, but it follows people everywhere they go. It is the fear of being ordinary. And most people who feel it never say it out loud. Because how do you tell someone that living a normal life scares you? How do you explain that you wake up some mornings and feel this low hum of panic? Not because something is wrong, but because nothing feels big enough. This fear does not always look like ambition. Sometimes it looks like exhaustion. Sometimes it looks like someone who cannot stop working, even when they want to. Someone who feels guilty watching a movie in the middle of the afternoon. Someone who turns every hobby into a business because just enjoying something does not feel like enough. And if any part of that feels familiar, this video is going to explain why. Not to fix it, not to motivate you, but to show you where it came from. Because once you see it clearly, it is very hard to unsee. The question that started everything. Think about the first time an adult asked you what you wanted to be when you grew up. You were probably 5, maybe 6, and the adults around you smiled when you said something impressive. Doctor, astronaut, lawyer. They nodded. They encouraged you. That response felt good. So you learned very early that what you were going to become mattered. Not just to you, but to the people around you. And this starts earlier than most people realize. Before a child can even read, the American culture is already asking them to perform potential, to signal that they are going somewhere, that they are not just a kid sitting on the floor, they are a future somebody. This is not bad on its own, but something happens when a child grows up inside that question long enough. The question stops being about the future, and it starts becoming the filter through which they see themselves right now. Am I becoming enough? Am I impressive enough? Am I on track? School taught you that you were a score. The American school system does not just teach children how to read and do math, it teaches them how to be ranked. From a very young age, children learn that some people are gifted and some people are not. Some kids get pulled out of class for advanced programs. Some kids get their names on the honor roll. Some kids get trophies at the end of the year. And some kids watch all of that happen from their seats. And even the kids who win, the kids with the good grades, the academic awards, the gifted labels, even those kids learn something dangerous. They learn that their value is tied to their performance, that love and praise flow toward achievement, that being smart or talented or exceptional is not just nice, it is necessary. There is a name in psychology for this kind of child. The gifted kid who became an anxious adult, the high achiever who, decades later, still cannot sit still without feeling like they are falling behind, because the system never told them they were enough as they were. It only told them they were good when they produced something worth seeing. But here is where it gets strange. Even the kids who were never on the honor roll absorbed the same message. Because in a system built around ranking, everyone learns the ranking matters. Even the people who stopped trying to win still believe somewhere underneath that winning is what makes you matter. The stories America told you. At the same time school was ranking children, American culture was telling them a story, a very specific story. You can be anything you want to be, work hard enough, and anything is possible. The person who made it big started with nothing. These stories are everywhere. They are in movies, they are in commercials, they are in the speeches that adults gave at every graduation. The American dream is not just an economic idea, it is an emotional one. It says that if you are smart enough, hungry enough, and willing to sacrifice enough, you can rise. And if you do not rise, that story does not answer that question cleanly. Because the logic works both ways. If anyone can make it, then the people who do not make it must have chosen not to, must not have wanted it badly enough, must not have worked hard enough. This is what psychologists sometimes call a just world belief. The idea that outcomes are earned, that life is fair if you play it right. And it sounds inspiring on the surface, but underneath it carries a quiet cruelty, because it means that ordinary outcomes are secretly a personal failure. Nobody ever said that out loud, but Americans absorbed it anyway. Comparison became the weather. For a long time, comparison had natural limits. You compared yourself to your neighbors, to your classmates, to the people in your small town or your apartment building. The comparison was still painful sometimes, but it was contained. You could see where you stood among people you actually knew. Then came the internet, and then came social media. And suddenly, comparison had no walls. Now you were not comparing yourself to your neighbors. You were comparing yourself to everyone. The most successful version of every person you knew. The highlight reel of strangers living bigger, richer, more beautiful lives. The entrepreneur who started their company at 23, the influencer who quit their job and now travels for free, the person from your high school who posted a photo of their new house. What many Americans never notice is how much this changed the emotional baseline. Because when the comparison pool grows to include everyone, the average starts to feel like the bottom, and being ordinary starts to feel like being left behind. Before social media, a person could live a genuinely good life and feel okay about it. Now they can live a genuinely good life and still feel like they are losing, because there is always someone richer on their phone, always someone more impressive 3 swipes away. The loneliness nobody talks about. Here is something that does not get said enough. A lot of the ambition that Americans carry is not really about success. It is about belonging. When you grow up in a culture that celebrates achievement, achievement becomes the language of connection. It is how you show people you are worth knowing. It is how you earn a seat at the table. It is how you prove that your life is going somewhere. And underneath all of that, underneath the hustle and the side projects and the LinkedIn posts about what you learned from failure, there is often a very quiet and very old fear. The fear that without your accomplishments, people would not care about you. This connects to something that developmental psychologists study in children. The way children learn that love is conditional, not because their parents were cruel, but because praise flows toward certain behaviors and not others, toward A's and not C's, toward winning and not losing, toward effort that is visible. Over time, a child learns, I am loved when I perform, I am valued when I produce, and I am only safe when I am impressive. Most adults carrying this pattern have never named it. They just feel it as a constant, low-level pressure to keep going, to never stop, to never let the numbers slip. Some people are not chasing success. They are running from shame. When ambition becomes a hiding place. Ambition is not the enemy. That matters to say. Hard work is real. Achievement is meaningful. The desire to build something, to grow, to leave something behind, those are deeply human impulses. There is nothing wrong with wanting more from your life. But here is the difference. Healthy ambition says, I want to grow because growth excites me. Anxious ambition says, I have to keep growing or I will disappear. One comes from curiosity. The other comes from fear. And they can look identical from the outside. The same long hours, the same relentless drive, the same inability to fully rest. But inside, they feel completely different. The person driven by curiosity can stop sometimes, can take a vacation and not feel like they are falling apart, can have a slow year and trust that they are still okay. They know their worth is not stored in their output. The person driven by fear cannot stop, because stopping feels dangerous, feels like the world might catch up to them, feels like someone might look at the numbers and finally see what they have always secretly believed, that without all of this, there is nothing particularly special about them. At some point, achievement stopped being exciting. It became emotional survival, hustle culture machine. American culture did not just allow this mindset. It built an entire machine around it. Hustle culture turned overworking into a personality. I'll sleep when I'm dead became something people said proudly. Working weekends became a badge. Burning out became proof that you were serious. And the content industry made it louder. Every morning routine video, every 5 a.m. wake-up challenge, every productivity hack and habit stack, and what I do in a day as a CEO at 26, all of it is built on the same foundation. The idea that if you are not optimizing, you are wasting. That rest is laziness. That an ordinary day is a missed opportunity. And it is very easy to get addicted to that kind of content because it promises something powerful. It says, you are one system away from the life you deserve, one more habit away from becoming someone who matters. But underneath that promise is an implication that the life you have right now is not enough, that you are not enough, that the gap between you and extraordinary is a personal discipline problem. This is the trap, because you can consume 1,000 videos about becoming better and still feel worse than when you started. Because the content is not designed to make you feel satisfied. It is designed to keep you watching. Rest stopped feeling peaceful. It started feeling dangerous. Performance of a life. Social media did not just change comparison. It changed identity. Because once you learn that your life can be watched, something subtle shifts. You start to see your own life the way an audience would see it. You start thinking about how things look, not just how they feel. You curate, you edit, you highlight the parts that translate well. And over time, the line between your real self and your performed self starts to blur. There is a psychological term for this: self-monitoring, the degree to which a person adjusts their behavior based on how they think others see them. and Americans, on average, score very high. But what happens when self-monitoring becomes the default setting? When you cannot have an experience without immediately thinking about how you would caption it? When you cannot feel proud of something unless other people know about it? What happens is that the inside and the outside slowly come apart. You are performing a version of your life while the real version of your life goes unexamined. You are building a brand instead of building a self. And somewhere in the background, there is a quiet sadness that most people cannot name. A feeling of being seen everywhere and known nowhere. The fear of being average is often the fear of being forgotten. At 25, at 30, at 40. There is a very specific kind of panic that visits Americans at certain ages. At 25, many people look around and feel like they are already behind. Behind who? Behind some invisible version of themselves that they were supposed to become. Behind the people they went to school with. Behind the timelines they absorbed from culture and social media and the things adults said to them when they were young. At 30, the panic often returns louder. Because 30 felt like a deadline. It was never supposed to, but somehow it became one. And anyone who is 30 and still figuring things out can feel a specific shame about that. Not because anything is actually wrong, but because the cultural story said that by now, the shape of your life should be clear. At 40, some people look at what they have built and feel something confusing. Not emptiness exactly, but a question. A quiet voice that asks, "Is this it?" And they do not know what to do with that question because the culture never prepared them for it. Achievement became a way to earn love, but no amount of achievement ever made that feeling permanent. Because the bar keeps moving. Every time you hit a goal, there is another one waiting. Every time you reach a new level, someone above you makes you feel like you are still at the bottom. The finish line is always just far enough away to keep you running. The invisible cost. Here is what the hustle mythology never tells you. There is a cost to living like your life is a competition. There is a cost to never feeling like enough. There is a cost to tying your self-worth to your output so tightly that a bad quarter feels like a personal collapse. That cost shows up in different ways. It shows up in burnout, the specific kind of exhaustion that is not fixed by sleep, the kind that comes from doing too much for too long without knowing why you were doing it. It shows up in relationships, in the moments you were not really present because part of your mind was always working, always planning, always measuring. In the way real intimacy requires vulnerability that ambition sometimes cannot afford. It shows up in the emptiness that follows achievement. The moment after you hit the goal, the promotion, the launch, the milestone, and you expect to feel relief. And instead, you feel nothing, or something worse than nothing. You feel the pressure to immediately find the next thing, because without the next thing, you do not know who you are. For many Americans, being ordinary feels like becoming invisible, and that might be the saddest part of all. Not that people want too much, but that they have been taught to fear the quiet, to fear the still, to fear the simple fact of being a person without a performance. What ordinary actually means, ordinary has been made to sound like a failure. But if you look at it differently, ordinary is actually where most of human life happens. Ordinary is Tuesday afternoon. Ordinary is a good meal. Ordinary is a conversation with someone you love that you will never be able to explain to anyone else but that you will carry with you for years. Ordinary is most of it. Almost all of it. The extraordinary moments, the launches, the milestones, the achievements, those are real. They matter. But they are not where life actually lives. They are the punctuation, not the sentence. What happens when a culture decides that only the punctuation counts? The sentence starts to feel meaningless. People who have spent years in relentless pursuit of something often describe a strange feeling when they stop. Not peace, not relief. A kind of hollowness. Like they do not know what to do with themselves without the striving. Because the striving had become the point, not the destination. The running itself. And they were never taught how to simply be somewhere without going anywhere. The thing underneath. If you strip everything away, the hustle culture, the social media performance, the childhood rankings, the American dream mythology, what you find underneath is something very human and very old. People want to matter, not in the abstract, in a personal, specific, felt way. They want to know that their time here was not wasted, that they were seen, that they touched something real, that someone, somewhere, was better for having known them. They don't want to be rich. They want proof their life mattered. And the tragedy is that the culture offered them achievement as a substitute for that feeling. It said, here is a scoreboard. Here is a ranking. Here is a number of followers or dollars or job titles. And if you get enough of those, the feeling will come. But it doesn't come. Or it comes for a moment, and then it fades. And then you need more. Because the scoreboard cannot give you what you were actually looking for. It cannot tell you that you are enough. It can only tell you where you stand relative to other people. And there is always someone standing higher. The fear of being average is not about average. It is about invisibility. It is about the terrifying idea that you could live an entire life and leave no mark, that you could exist and then stop existing. And the world would not notice either way. That fear is real, and it is worth sitting with. Not because it means you should work harder, but because it is pointing at something that achievement will never actually solve. The quiet. Underneath. There are people who have everything the culture said would make them feel complete. The career, the money, the recognition, the life that looks right from the outside. And they are still waiting for the feeling that was supposed to come with it. Not because they did something wrong, but because the promise was always a little false. Not completely false. Work is real. Growth is real. Building something is real. The satisfaction of craft, of mastery, of contributing something to the world, those things are genuinely meaningful. But meaning is not the same as the feeling of being enough. And for a lot of Americans, those two things got tangled together a long time ago. In a classroom, in a family dinner, in the first time someone asked what you were going to be. The culture handed you a race and never told you there was no finish line. Never told you that winning would not feel the way you imagined. Never told you that the fear you were running from would still be there, waiting, no matter how fast you went. An honest ending. This is not a video that is going to tell you to slow down, or to stop caring, or to be content with less. You are the only one who knows what your life needs. But maybe it is worth asking something. When you imagine the life you are afraid of, the ordinary life, the quiet life, the life without the impressive parts, what is it exactly that you are afraid people would see? Because that answer is usually not about average. It is about something much older and much more personal than a scoreboard. The fear of being average is real. It is one of the most quietly painful things that modern American culture produces. And it is not a character flaw. It is a learned response to a system that taught people their worth was something they had to prove, over and over, to themselves and to everyone watching. You did not invent that fear. It was handed to you. And maybe the most honest thing this video can offer is simply the recognition of that. Not a solution. Not a path to a better you. Just the acknowledgement that if you have ever felt this, if you have ever felt the low hum of panic at the thought of being ordinary, you are not broken. You are just someone who absorbed the message that everyone around you was also absorbing, and that was never your fault. If this video said something you needed to hear, leave a comment. Tell me what hit you. Because those conversations, the real ones, the honest ones, are the opposite of ordinary.